The Concord Council chamber was built to intimidate. Its walls rose in a perfect arc, the ceiling lost in a haze of light and suspended banners. Species from 100 worlds filled the crescent of tiered seats, their voices a low, shifting murmur that hummed like a living machine. At the center, the council's circular table gleamed, obsidian surface polished until it reflected the delegates like dark water. Ambassador Daniel Reeves sat in the human chair, fingers still against the table's edge. He kept his posture measured, the slight lean forward that suggested attention, without submission. His eyes locked on the towering figure opposite him. High Warlord Kreth Varas of the Dravic Dominion didn't sit. He loomed. Armor plates of dark bronze and scale flesh shifted with each deliberate movement. His talons drummed once on the tabletop, a sound that carried in the chamber's perfect acoustics. You will surrender the colonies at Glees, 184F in New Horizon, Kreth said. His voice was a deep rasp that carried like a blade scraping stone. Tribute will be paid yearly in ore and water. In return, the Dominion will permit your people to continue breathing. Daniel let the silence stretch. He knew the first one to speak after such a declaration was already at a disadvantage. Around them, the murmurs swelled, faded. The council's neutral faces, avian, insectoid, crystalline, watched for the smallest slip. Finally, Daniel spoke. I'll have to decline your generosity. Kretha's muzzle curled in something between a grin and a snarl. Decline? You misunderstand human. This is not a negotiation. Everything in this room is a negotiation, Daniel said evenly. Even the way you stand instead of sit. It's a performance. You want to appear dominant. But here's the thing about performances. They end. The warlord's pupils narrowed to slits. We have fought 100 wars and broken 100 worlds. You've fought none. A century of peace has made you soft. Daniel leaned back in his chair, steepling his hands. Peace hasn't made us soft. It's made us patient. The council chair, an elder of the Selkin race, cleared her throat, a soft, liquid sound. Ambassador Reeve, Warlord Varas, this chamber is not for threats. It's not a threat, Daniel said, eyes still on Kreth. It's a fact. The warlord's talons stopped drumming. You think the Concord will protect you? They will vote, they will debate, and when they're finished, my fleets will have burned your skies. Daniel's voice dropped, deliberate and calm. You may find Earth's skies harder to burn than you expect. The words were not loud, but they landed with weight. A ripple passed through the chamber. The Dravic envoy's age shifted uneasily. Their warlord did not. Kreth straightened to his full height. You will regret this. Daniel allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Perhaps, but perhaps not today. The chair brought her staff down once, a chime echoing through the chamber. This session is adjourned. Further discussion will be scheduled. Delegates rose, their aides gathering data slates, translators, and cloaks. The murmur returned, louder now, filled with speculation. Daniel stayed seated until the Dravic delegation turned away, their armor catching the cold light. Only when they had gone did he stand. His aide, Lieutenant Mara Vance, a former naval intelligence officer, moved to his side. You didn't exactly defuse that situation. I wasn't trying to, Daniel said quietly as they stepped into the council's side corridor. He came here to measure us. I gave him something to think about. They passed through a narrow walkway lined with panels displaying the Concord's history, centuries of treaties, exploratory milestones, and the slow weaving of civilizations into an uneasy tapestry. Daniel glanced at none of it. His mind was already working through probabilities. Varas didn't come for colonies, he said as they walked. He came to see if we'd kneel. If we did, the rest of the Concord would file us under manageable. And if we didn't, Mara asked. Daniel's answer was grim. Then they moved to force. Her earpiece pinged. She checked the encrypted feed, then handed him the display. Intelligence update. Dominion fleets have broken orbit from 2 staging worlds. One vector matches Glees, 184F. Daniel absorbed the data, without a flicker of surprise. So he's already moving. That means today's meeting was theater for the council. They entered the human embassy's secure chamber, walls lined with signal dampeners. Daniel sat at the central table and keyed in a secure link. The Prime Minister's face appeared, tired, drawn. "I assume you heard," Daniel said. "We heard," the PM replied. "Official stance on the Concord?" "None yet. They'll debate until the Draviks are on our doorstep." "And your stance?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "We prepare to respond." Quietly. The PM's eyes hardened. "You'll have what you need. But if they strike first, the leash comes off." The feed cut. Daniel leaned back, exhaling once. Mara stood at the door, arms folded. "You think the council will intervene at all?" "They might, after the fact, when it's safe." He rubbed his temple, then straightened. "Let's make it unsafe for them to wait." He turned to the secure console and began drafting orders, encrypted, targeted, routed through back channels only a handful of naval officers still knew. Names from his past surfaced, old comrades who had traded uniforms for civilian life, but had never forgotten how to move ships without being seen. Outside, the endless sprawl of Aurelia Prime glimmered beneath the red giant's light. To an alien eye, it might have looked eternal, unshakable. Daniel knew better. Peace was a delicate structure, beautiful but fragile, and some threats could not be met with words alone. He tapped the final command into the console and watched it vanish into secure relay. The first pieces were in motion. Tomorrow, the warlord would have his answer, and it wouldn't be the one he expected. The Selkin envoy's private chamber was dim, lit by slow pulses from the bioluminescent panels that lined the walls. The effect was hypnotic, like sitting inside a heartbeat. Daniel kept his focus on the amphibious figure across from him. Envoy RYTHK drifted slightly in the shallow pool that served as both chair and life support. His eyes, wide, lidless, and glossy, blinked only when his gills flared. "You request my people's support against the Dravik Dominion," RYDH said, his voice carrying a smooth resonance. "Yet the Concord has not declared a crisis. Without such a declaration, we can only act in shadows." Daniel leaned forward. "Then act there. Shadows are where humans tend to be most comfortable." RYTH tilted his head, as if tasting the words. "Your kind is still new to the Concord. Few trust a species they barely know." "That's exactly why this matters," Daniel replied. "If the Dominion breaks us, it proves we're an easy example. It teaches every aggressive power that the Council's newcomers are ripe for pressure." The Selkin's gills rippled. "And if you lose?" Daniel didn't look away. "Then we lose standing, and you lose the precedent that kept your world safe." For a long moment, the only sound was the slow drip of water. Then RYTH inclined his head. "Very well. We will provide you with intelligence on Dominion fleet movements. But if you name us as the source, we will deny it." "That's all I need," Daniel said. He rose, offering the smallest nod. "And RYTH, when this ends, I'll remember who stood with us first." Back in the human embassy, Mara was waiting with a grim expression. "We've got a problem. Concord media feeds are carrying a Dravik story claiming we fired first on one of their patrols." Daniel stopped mid-stride. "When?" "An hour ago. Fabricated down to sensor logs and comm chatter. They're trying to set the narrative before the council votes." He moved to the comm station and pulled up the feed. The footage was convincing. Human ships firing torpedoes, Dravik vessels exploding. To the untrained eye, it was irrefutable. "They've done this before," Mara said. "Krellin border dispute 7 years back. Entire war built on stage footage." Daniel's jaw tightened. "We can't just deny it. Denial without proof looks like guilt. Then what's the move?" "Find their proof, and then burn it in public." The next meeting took place in a garden dome high above Aurelia Prime's equator. The air here was humid, heavy with the scent of alien flora. Daniel met Ambassador Sithra of the Valari Union, a species resembling mantises in ornate silk harnesses. Her compound eyes reflected the whole skyline. "Humans," Sithra said, each syllable precise, "do not yet grasp the fragility of the Concord. One war and others may follow." Daniel gestured to the horizon. "Fragility isn't preserved by letting predators choose their prey." Her antennae twitched. "You think the Dominion a predator?" "I think they're testing how much they can take before anyone says no." And you wish my union to say no first? No, Daniel said. I want you to help me make their next move too expensive to take. Covert sensor relays, communications monitoring, things you can offer without the Council's blessing. Cithra's gaze stayed fixed on him for several seconds, unreadable. Then she tilted her head in assent. The Union will listen to your request. But remember, Ambassador, if you fail, we'll pretend we never heard it. That seems to be the theme this week, Daniel said dryly. By the time Daniel returned to the embassy, night had fallen across Virelia's inner rim. From the balcony, the city was a web of golden light stretching along the curvature of the ring world. Beautiful, but distant. Mara approached with a datapad. Got something. Our intercepts show a Dominion data packet routed through a neutral relay station before the evidence leak. We traced it to a Dravik ship docked here 2 days ago. Daniel took the pad, scanning quickly. Security cameras? Wiped. But station logs put 2 Dominion Tech officers in a relay core during a maintenance inspection. He looked up, mind already moving to the next step. Then we go to the station master. Quietly, offer him a choice between helping us now or testifying later. Mara smirked. The kind of choice you always make sound so reasonable. The station master, a pale-skinned Lorix with too many eyes to track, did not enjoy being cornered in his own office. This is delicate, the Lorix said, his voice clicking on certain consonants. The Dominion is a major client. I cannot afford. Daniel cut him off. You can't afford being caught selling falsified war footage either. The Council would bury you under sanctions before the month is out. The Lorix's eyes shifted restlessly. Hypothetically, if such footage were stored in a secure backup. Hypothetically, Daniel said, you'd hand me the access key, and I'd make sure no one knew where I got it. A long pause. Then the Lorix reached into a drawer, produced a thin crystal wafer, and set on the desk. Hypothetically, this conversation never happened. Of course, Daniel said, pocketing the wafer. That's the best kind of conversation. Back in the embassy, they decrypted the file. The truth was there, raw footage showing the same engagement, but with the order reversed. Dravik ships firing first, and human vessels returning fire seconds later. The falsified version had simply flipped the sequence and replaced the original audio. Mara let out a low whistle. This would play well on the council floor. Daniel nodded. But not yet. Timing matters. We wait until Varas is in the chamber and fully committed to the lie. Then we show the real version. And in the meantime, we keep building our case. And our options. That night, Daniel sat alone in his quarters, reviewing his private comm logs, messages from retired admirals, old squad leaders, captains of ships that were no longer officially in service but could be recalled in an emergency. Each one had responded the same way. Just say the word. He closed the files and stared out at the curve of Virelia's inner ocean, glimmering faintly under the red giant's light. The Council would debate. Allies would hedge. The Dominion would move faster than either. Patience had its limits. Soon, he'd have to decide when words had done enough, and when they needed to be replaced by something far sharper. The message came in at dawn Virelia time, though the ring world's perpetual glow made dawn a polite fiction. Mara burst into Daniel's office without knocking. Confirmed. Dominion strike group hit New Horizon an hour ago. No warning, no declaration. Daniel rose slowly from his chair. Damage. They targeted the orbital yard. Civilian casualties are high. Local defense fought back, but they were outgunned. The Dominion's already broadcasting footage, claiming they responded to continued human aggression. He exhaled once sharp. And the Concord? Convening emergency session in 4 hours. The chamber was more crowded than Daniel had ever seen. Delegates who hadn't attended in months filled the upper tiers, drawn by the Senate crisis. The chair called for order, her voice almost lost in the crossfire of accusations. Kreth Varas stood at the center, every scale polished, every movement deliberate. Once again, the humans prove they cannot coexist in peace, he declared. Our patrol near New Horizon was fired upon without provocation. We acted to protect our vessels and crew. If they persist, we'll be forced to remove the threat entirely. Daniel waited until the ripple of murmurs faded. Warlord Varas, he said evenly, your fleet crossed into our territory, attacked our shipyard, and killed civilians. That is not defense. That is an invasion. Varas smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. A matter of perspective. One your species has little experience with. Daniel tapped his console. The chamber dimmed as a hollow projection appeared. Raw sensor data. Time-stamped, unaltered. Dravik vessels firing first. Human ships reacting seconds later. The feed ended with the yard in flames. Gasps broke the air. Some delegates shifted in their seats. Others whispered rapidly to aides. This, Daniel said, is the unedited record provided by neutral station sensors. Cross-check it yourself. If the Dominion story is true, you won't find a match. Varas's eyes narrowed, fabricated. Daniel met his gaze without blinking. Say that again after you verified the logs. I'll wait. The chair's staff rang once. Enough. The evidence will be examined by the Concord Security Bureau. Varas inclined his head slightly, less a bow than a calculation. While they investigate, our fleets will continue to ensure the safety of our borders. Back in the embassy, Mara followed Daniel into the secure room. That bought us time, she said, but the Dominion's not stopping. Our listening posts show another group moving toward Gliese, 184F. Daniel studied the star maps, red markers creeping toward human space. If they take Gliese, they split our territory in two. And the Council will still be debating jurisdiction. He tapped a series of commands into the secure console. Give me Admiral Kalen, Fleet Reserve Command. A moment later, the Admiral's scarred face filled the screen. Ambassador, I assume this is a courtesy call. It's authorization, Daniel said. Mobilize Task Group 17. Quietly. No transponder pings until they're past the Concord's inner border. Kalen's eyes hardened. You want them in position for a counterstrike. I want them ready for whatever happens next. The task group launched within hours. 5 destroyers and cruiser, all built in the last decade. Crews trained for speed and precision. Their orders were sealed but clear enough. Respond to any Dominion incursion without waiting for the Council's blessing. Meanwhile, Daniel continued the diplomatic front. He met with Sithra of the Valari Union again, showing her intercepted Dominion orders that made their next moves obvious. You see where this goes, he said. They'll keep taking until someone makes them stop. Her antennae flexed in slow agreement. The Union will extend monitoring support. If the Dominion claims you struck first again, our data will contradict them. Good. We'll need it. 2 days later, the Dominion moved on Gliese, 184F. The colony's comm relay flared with distress calls. 2 patrol corvettes already down, orbital defenses under fire. Daniel received the feed in the embassy's war room. They're not probing anymore, Mara said. They're taking. Daniel keyed the secure channel. Task Group 17, you are clear to engage. Kalen's voice came back calm and steady. Acknowledge. We'll make it clean. The battle unfolded in the dark between stars. The Dominion expected a slow Concord response. They did not expect human ships to appear on their flanks minutes after the attack began. The first Dominion cruiser took a railgun volley through its midsection before its shields fully cycled. Fighters swept in, targeting engines rather than hulls, crippling ships before they could escape or retaliate. Daniel monitored from the war room, every sensor ping feeding into the hollow display. Keep it surgical, he told Kalen. No civilian damage. Already in hand, came the reply. Within 40 minutes, the Dominion strike group was in retreat. 2 ships disabled, the rest scattering into jump corridors. Human losses. 1 corvette heavily damaged, no fatalities reported. When the report reached the Concord, the chamber buzzed with disbelief. A newly admitted species had just routed a Dominion assault without outside help. Varas spoke first, voice cold. You have crossed into open war human. Daniel replied with measured calm. We defended our territory. That is our right under Concord law. The chair intervened before the exchange could escalate further. This council will now deliberate on appropriate measures. Back in the embassy, Mara leaned against the doorway to Daniel's office. You know they're going to see this as a challenge. Daniel closed the battle report. Good. That's exactly what it is. He stood, moving to the window where Virelia's vast curve glowed against the star field. Varas thought we'd bend. Instead, we've shown we can hold the line. Now we see how badly he wants to break it. Within a single rotation, Dominion warships appeared along 3 major trade routes connecting Earth's colonies to Concord's inner markets. Cargo convoys were stopped, scanned, and impounded for security review. Passenger liners were turned back or left drifting until fuel reserves forced surrender. The message was obvious. Human commerce would choke until Earth submitted. In the embassy's war room, a star map glowed with 3 crimson arcs cutting through human space like a noose. Daniel studied it in silence while Mara read the latest report. 17 freighters seized, for our carrying critical medical supplies. The rest, she checked the slate, food, industrial parts, terraforming equipment. They're not just hurting our military capacity, Daniel said. They're trying to turn public opinion against the government. Make surrender look like the lesser evil. Mara folded her arms. And the council? Still debating whether the blockade constitutes an act of war. Daniel's gaze sharpened. If they take another week, we won't need their definition. We'll have our own. Later that day, he walked into the private negotiation chamber aboard Neutrality's Edge, a Concord diplomatic station parked in geosynchronous orbit. Kreth Varas was already there, standing beside the panoramic viewport. The warlord didn't turn when Daniel entered. You've been busy, Daniel said. Kreth's reflection in the glass curled into a smile. And you've been predictable. Daniel stepped closer. Blockading medical supplies isn't war, it's extortion. It's incentive, Kreth replied. The Concord hesitates. You suffer. Your people demand relief. You offer me concessions. We both win. Daniel's tone didn't shift. There's one flaw in your equation. Enlighten me. You assume Earth's patience equals submission. Kreth finally turned, towering over him. And you assume the Dominion's patience has limits. It does not. We can wait until your colonies starve. Daniel met his eyes. Patience is a virtue. It's also a weapon. And humans have learned to use both. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. 2 predators deciding whether to strike. Back in the embassy, Daniel moved the next phase forward. His secure orders went to a handful of captains with standing instructions for commerce protection operations. In practice, it meant harassment raids on Dominion blockade ships. Never in force, always unpredictable. The tactics were unconventional. Merchant freighters hiding shielded railguns, shuttles releasing swarms of decoy drones to scramble targeting systems, stealth corvettes slipping past and cutting communications relays. Each action was small enough to avoid being labeled a formal battle, but costly enough to force the Dominion to replace or reposition ships. Mara watched the reports come in with a mix of satisfaction and unease. Every time we hit them, we prove we can hurt them, but it also pushes them towards something bigger. That's the point, Daniel said. We want Varas to overcommit. The more he concentrates his forces, the fewer fronts he can hold. 3 days into the blockade, the Dominion's frustration began to show. Their ships tightened patrols. Escorts doubled, and scanning protocols became aggressive to the point of harassment. Daniel met again with Sithra of the Valari Union. She brought him data. Intercepted communications showing Kreth demanding results from his admirals. This, she said, tapping the datapad with a clawed fingertip, is the sound of a predator realizing the prey bites back. Daniel allowed himself a thin smile. Then we keep biting. That evening, a private channel lit on Daniel's secure comm. It was Kreth himself. Your little tricks are amusing, the warlord said, but they will not save you. Every day, your ships burn fuel, your crews grow tired. My fleets replace their losses. Can you say the same? Daniel kept his tone calm. We don't need to match you ship for ship. We just need to make you bleed until your own people wonder why they're dying over 2 colonies they'd never heard of. A low growl came through the channel. Careful, human. You mistake my patience for weakness. No, Daniel said. I'm counting on it. By the week's end, human raids had destroyed or captured 6 blockade vessels. Public sentiment in the colonies shifted, from fear to a fierce, stubborn pride. Messages poured into the embassy from civilian captains volunteering for escort duty, some from ships barely spaceworthy. But the cost was mounting. Supply chains stretched thin, orbital stations rationed fuel, and civilian unrest simmered. Daniel knew they were nearing the tipping point. In a midnight strategy session, Mara voiced what they were both thinking. Varas is going to respond with something heavy, a decisive move to break us. Daniel nodded. Then we'll make sure he chooses a time and place we want. How? By making him think it's his idea. 2 days later, Dominion scouts detected what appeared to be a major supply convoy forming at the Klein shipyard, a critical hub near human space. The formation was deliberate, the escort pattern sloppy enough to look like overconfidence. Every Dominion intelligence agent in Virelia picked up the chatter within hours. Daniel watched the reports filter in, knowing exactly how they'd be interpreted. He'll see it as an opportunity. Something big enough to cripple our supply lines in one blow. And it's a trap, Mara said. A very patient one, Daniel replied. The final confirmation came through an intercepted order from Kreth himself. A fleet group, led by his flagship, was to engage and destroy the Klein convoy. Daniel stared at the transmission for a long moment. Then he keyed in the secure command that would activate the waiting human fleets hidden in the asteroid fields near Klein. He thought of Kreth's words about patience, about waiting until his enemy starved. Sometimes patience meant holding still. Sometimes it meant letting your opponent walk into the kill zone. The throne chamber was silent except for the faint hum of the alien gravity stabilizers. The air carried the metallic tang of cold machinery and something older, an ancient, dusty stillness, as if this place had been waiting for centuries for what was about to happen. Admiral Kor of the Virile Dominion lounged on his high back seat, a smirk curling the thin ridges of his mouth. Around him, armored guards stood motionless, their weapons gleaming under pale blue light. His eyes black, reflective pools, locked on a lone human stepping forward. Ambassador Daniel Hayes didn't look like a soldier. His dark suit was wrinkled from travel, his hands empty, his pace calm. Yet there was something in his expression, measured, unshakable, that made even the virile guards shift their stance ever so slightly. "You stand here," Kor said, his voice echoing with synthetic amplification, "to surrender Earth. You will offer tribute. You will acknowledge virile supremacy, or your species will be erased." Hayes stopped exactly 3 steps from the dais. "We don't surrender." A low ripple of amusement passed through the alien court. Kor leaned forward. "You have no fleets that can match ours. No weapons that can penetrate our shields. No allies among the stars. Yet you think to fight." "I'm not here to think," Hayes said evenly. "I'm here to tell you the war has already begun." Kor's smirk deepened. "Your bluffs are pathetic." Hayes tilted his head. "Look outside." The alien glanced to his side, irritated, but Guard gestured urgently toward the massive viewing aperture. The dark void of space was no longer empty. A swarm of ships, human ships, hung in silent formation, their black holes absorbing light, their shapes sharp and angular like blades drawn in the dark. "You dare bring a fleet to our home world?" Kor snarled. "It's not a fleet," Hayes corrected. "It's the first wave." Before Kor could reply, the air shimmered. The alien palace's energy shields rippled, not from an external strike, but from within. Somewhere deep in the station, explosions pulsed to the floor, sharp, precise, surgical. "Impossible!" One of the virile commanders barked, activating a comm device. "The inner defense rings are—" A second blast cut him off, this one closer. Lights flickered. The guards tightened their grips on their weapons. But Hayes didn't flinch. His gaze never left Kor. "You've had the wrong idea about humans," Hayes said, his tone almost conversational. "You think war is about bigger guns and bigger armies. It's not. War is about breaking the other side's mind before you break their body." Kor's ridges stiffened. "What have you done?" 3 hours ago, Hayes said, "teams boarded your orbital foundries. Not soldiers, engineers. The same people who built your power conduits, your navigation relays, your life support systems. They didn't need to blow everything up. They just needed to take control. As if on cue, the lights went completely dark. The only illumination came from the faint glow of weapons and the ghostly silhouettes of the alien guards. From somewhere in the shadows, a human voice spoke, not Hayes's. All Viral military assets are under our control. The voice came from every comm channel, every speaker, every frequency the aliens used. The chamber erupted in shouts. Guards activated scanners, but the readings were scrambled. Kor rose to his feet. This is sabotage, treachery. This is war, Hayes said. The kind you said we'd never fight. Outside the palace, the silent human ships began to move. They didn't fire in wide, chaotic barges. Each strike was pinpoint, dismantling key defense satellites, disabling but not destroying orbital structures, cutting the Dominion's communication lines one by one. It was surgical, almost quiet. The Viral response was sluggish, confused, fractured. You've already lost, Hayes continued, his voice steady. Not because we outnumber you. Not because we outgun you, but because you don't understand how far we'll go when someone tells us we can't win. Kor's mandibles flexed in rage. You think killing me will end this? My generals will burn your world. Hayes stepped closer, his voice dropping just enough for only Kor to hear. No, killing you will just make them realize the war's already over. The alien guards shifted, weapons ready, but a faint hiss filled the air. One by one, their armor systems powered down, joints locking in place. The humans had hacked the suits. They froze mid-step, trapped inside their own armor. Kor took a step back. What do you want? Hayes allowed the silence to stretch. When he finally spoke, it was with the weight of something inevitable. You'll withdraw from every human world. You'll release every prisoner. You'll sign a treaty acknowledging our sovereignty. And if I refuse? Hayes looked him in the eye. You won't. The alien ruler lunged, but Hayes's movement was faster. Too fast for a diplomat, too precise for chance. His hand brushed the inside of his jacket, and a narrow, matte black device slid into his palm. There was no flash, no loud shot, just a whisper of expelled air. Kor staggered. A thin line appeared across his neck, and for a heartbeat his black eyes widened in disbelief. Then he collapsed, the chamber echoing with the heavy thud of his body. Hayes didn't look at him again. He turned toward the nearest alien officer, who stood rigid in shock. Transmit the terms, Hayes ordered. Now. The officer hesitated only a second before obeying. The humans had the palace, the fleet, the infrastructure. Resistance now would mean annihilation. Outside, the human ships began to peel away from the homeworld's orbit. Not in retreat, but in controlled, calculated departure. They had made their point. Hayes stood alone in the alien throne room. Around him, the silence felt different now. Not the stillness of arrogance, but the pause of a predator realizing it was no longer the hunter. For the first time in the war, the galaxy understood. Earth would not be conquered.